right, welcome to the amphitheater hot shop. This is Mark Matthews, our guest artist for the day, and he's going to be making some marbles this morning. So he's got, I'll show you the.
No. We're at 10:50. Oh, there we go. Hey, we're working. Good morning, everybody. So, I'm making what the British call a sticky bitey. Going to use this to pick up the plug.
Got your plug here, Mark.
There it is. It's exactly like that one. And it began its ascent to 1,000 degrees yesterday in the late afternoon. And it's in the oven right behind me here at 1,050. So look at this huge, monstrous shop. We're going to make a couple little black and white balls. So 70% of the work for today's objects is already done. First, you have to make the blank. So if you were here a day that I was making the blank, you could watch for 4 hours, and I would put this little black cylinder away in the oven, several of them, one after another. And the last 15, 20 minutes of each one would be trying to get the dimensions just exactly right. And the thing's just absolutely as parallel as possible because you have these black and white features that come around tangentially. And the closer it can be to the right dimension, the easier it is in the cold shop. And then a photo-processed sand etching material would be applied. The black is only about 20,000ths of an inch thick on the surface. There's a very thin layer of clear between the black and white, and then there's clear in the center.
Yeah, so we had a question, what type of glass is he using? We're using a System 96 glass, which Mark has at home, and he made these plugs previously, so when he found out that we were melting System 96, he brought one of his plugs from home. So different types of glass are have different COEs, or coefficients of expansion, and so he had the same type of glass that we're melting here, so he had a plug from home that he brought in, and it's going to work perfectly with our glass. Yep. I can bring this around if anyone wants to see this a little closer. Yeah. Perfect. And if anyone in the audience has questions, we can take those now, and Mark can answer, or we can answer, whatever. Yeah, so in our glass market, in the museum, we sell Mark's marbles, and people go in all the time, and they say, how does he get these patterns? And so it's really nice today that you can actually come and watch him and see how he gets these patterns. So this will actually be two marbles from one plug. So he's going to gather clear, I believe, over the whole plug and then divide that into 2 marbles. This is live streamed, yeah. So we have we have everyone joining us from home, and so if you have questions on the live stream, we can always answer those too as well. Just type it in the comments below, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Yeah, so for those of you who are here today, and maybe some other day you're not able to make it back to the museum and we have a guest artist, check to see if we're live streaming that demonstration.
So George is going to get me just a little gob to put on the end because the corner, the pattern is very close to the corner. And the corner will heat up quicker than everything else. And so I'll relocate the corner away from the pattern. Oh, that wasn't so good. So this is corner relocation therapy. The corner will heat up quicker than the mass of the thing. If the pattern's right next to the corner, then when I do the casing, there's a possibility it could sort of tug and distort the pattern right at the corner. So after the cutting, the black has actually got a little bit of relief to it. It's proud above the surface, and it needs to be leveled. And I'm going to use the marble surface for that because the thermal conductivity of the marble is really low compared to the steel.
And that's a slab of marble that you're rolling on, Mark?
Yep, little slab of marble.
So we've got the steel marvers, and then he brought a slab of marble.
Oh,
So he has these really intricate patterns. He creates a resist and then places that on the glass, and he's got the black that goes all the way around that. He's got the white, a little bit of clear, the black, then he creates this resist and then sandblasts through the resist, and it leaves just the black pattern, which allows him to get those really nice crisp lines for those black and white patterns.
so I could flatten this out with one big clodhopper reheat, but that would have the possibility of smearing the pattern, and then that would be the end of the whole purpose of the object. So the far end is always warmer than the near end. So I'm trying to compensate for that every couple of heats here. I also want to be very careful to maintain the original diameter. Diameter, diameter, a major parameter. So this process is a little bit tedious, this flattening, but all of a sudden it'll go flat. so cool with the fan. It's getting close. So this process of making a sort of a cameo style blank and then cutting it cold and then heating it back up and making a different shape than you started with was invented in Sweden about 1919 by Simone Gata and Sven Palmqvist. It was sort of an augmentation of the ancient Roman cameo glass, which was revised by the British Empire in the mid-19th century to an extent never seen in the ancient world. The second time something comes around, hindsight's 20/20, and things become idealized. So after the Crystal Palace World's Fair, every country in the world wanted a cameo industry, and the Swedes were very late to get into it, but extremely innovative, coming up with Areole and Grau and Ravenna. Very innovative techniques extrapolated from the cameo idea. Oh, I see. So, yeah, we're getting a little skinny at the near end. It's a disadvantage of such a small piece of marble. Go diagonally a little bit.
So, Mark, we have a question for you.
Yes, yes.
Why you use the marble instead of the steel?
Oh, because the marble is very gentle in its chilling. It has a much lower thermal conductivity, and the surface will not get attacked and crazed like it will on the steel. Also, just immediately when you touch the steel, the surface stops moving. So it's kind of a time machine, very gentle. Now, Bill Gudenrath across the parking lot, he has a brass marver, so that would have more thermal conductivity than the steel. So you could have a gradation from extremely conductive to minimal. Oh, we're just about ready. Not quite. Many of the steps during the making of these are not very exciting at all. Just a little more. So if I don't get it perfectly flat, I'll catch little unwanted air. Also, the white area was pretty rough from the cutting, from the sand etching. And it's got to be perfectly shiny again. Okay. So we turned the glass up, the clear up a little bit from their normal operating temperature of 2100. We're at 2150. That's to lower the viscosity. So I'll get a little bit thinner layer on this when I case it. The nature of this work is that I have to just accept the exact thickness of layer that the glass gives me. I can't strip it manually in any way or it will smear the pattern. So by having the viscosity lower, I hopefully will end up with the right thickness. If it's too thick, you will see the pattern cut in under the horizon of the sphere in the finished object. It looks just about ready. So this is one of the most radically organized little black and whites ever. It's a triad, and it starts out with every line straight and every angle a right angle, and it ends up with no right angles and no straight lines. Let's do a couple fire polishing heats. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, just before we case this, George is going to push the surface back. We call it raking. And that will put any bubbles toward the back so I won't catch them. We're still a little ways off, a little more fire polishing, and then I've got to do a thing I call super cooling. Get it as cold as I can get it without it flying apart. If it gets seriously below 1,000 degrees, it will self-destruct. So when this is super cooled enough, the red here will be just the dullest maroon. It looks good. I taught a class here last week, and the class participants learned about this super cooling thing. If you have a big core and you're going to pick up canes, you get it so cold it's just about ready to explode, which takes repeated heating to get it that cold, believe it or not. And then you can sear the surface and have just the surface sticky to pick up your canes, and it's not flapping around like a fish on the beach. Some semblance of control is then possible. So it's a very active process cooling this. Now it's getting the coldest right here. So by heating this here, I can actually get it colder. This is a very low mass, a very small blank. So the supercooling is fairly quick. Tick, 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 tick. It's like being a percussion player in the orchestra, turning the pages and turning the pages, waiting nervously. Anybody else have any questions?
Where was the question? Right here. Wait, What?
How does that make sense?
Do you mind using this?
Does the mic? Okay. You mentioned that by heating it, you're actually cooling it. How does that work?
I can hear now because the torch I can't hear with the hissing. So
You mentioned that by heating it, you're actually cooling it.
you're correct.
How does that work?
That's because the surface can never be let to get seriously below 1,000 degrees. But most of the heat that I'm trying to get out is down in the surface, down in the center. So the only way I can get the overall thing as cold as I need it is to repeatedly flash the surface. And if any section of it ever gets below 1,000 degrees, it'll just fly apart. Self-destruct. That's the way glass is. It's a little bit persnickety. Yeah, it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, it is. Also, you mentioned before that you use some kind of a mask to protect one part, the white part, from getting
can.
black. What do you use as a mask?
You can ask me the question, or I can't hear the question very well.
Okay. So the question was, he uses a mask to protect the white. So you could use tape. If you were making really deep cuts with a sandblaster, you could use something called butter cut, which is almost like a foam. And so duct tape, any kind of tape, anything that will prevent the sandblasting from hitting the glass. So in this case, they're really, they're 90-degree angles, really thin lines, and so he probably printed something out on a transparency, and then used a resist to, and they use a light to
Yeah. Go
Photo-
ahead and rake.
make the film that would protect the glass weak,
Let's see.
and then kind of brush that off, and then they could stick that sticker on.
Yeah, the entire
That's what
surface
those
was once black. So that which is not the pattern has been removed. Okay, here we go. Just get it.
You would like photo silk
Turn
screen a
once.
pattern and then attach the pattern? Is that
Correct.
what you're saying?
Turn
Yeah.
it off
And
a
how would you
little.
attach it? When it's hot?
So it's like a sticky film,
Right.
and that's just to protect
There
the
you go.
glass.
Okay, but
So the
you would-
sticky film goes onto the glass, and then he sandblasts it. And the sandblasting only happens where the film isn't.
Okay.
No, I'll just do all the fussing at the bench.
Would you put that sticky mask on when it's cool?
Cold.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So he makes it hot
Right.
with the white, the clear, the black, lets it cool. And they stick the resist on, and then sandblast it.
That looks like
And
a good
then he
thickness.
brought the plug in. We put it in an oven and brought it out to.
So when I cased that over, it was a very dangerous time for the pattern. It could just smear the heck out of it. So now that the temperature's equalized, it's fairly stable in there. We can set it a little more parallel. And from here on out, it's all editing. We'll just take the fillet and pitch the rest. Yeah, it looks very good. So it's a real trick to close the pattern at the north and the south pole. The north pole is where I'm going to shear the pattern close, and the south pole is where I'll be attached last. Now, some of the larger spheres have two north poles, so they're sealed at both ends. This one will have a slight opening in the pattern at the south pole, and that's where I will sign it with a diamond point. So from here on, the whole forming has got to take place with the glass just kind of moving like leather. So I get very smooth general distortions, and I don't really attenuate the pattern much as I am closing it. This was a rare opportunity. I have a lot of black and white blanks cut and ready to go at my shop, and they just happen to have very similar clear here. To make one of these of this type in the field, out on safari. Yes, yes. Oh, it's just very similar to this, but smaller. You know, just a single bench, and my furnace holds about 300 pounds. It's a combination furnace, glory hole, pipe warmer, sort of like Bill's across the street. Only it's not a pot. It is a one-piece liner, though, and you always pick up the articulated blanks out of the top loader, and we have a side loader. This very gradual forming gives a very graceful distortion to the pattern.
So we had another question, how does the marble get its color? So previously in another session at a studio at home, he made these plugs, and that's what he picked up earlier from the oven, and it has these black and white lines on it. So that's how they would make these patterns. To make the colors, different color companies add different metal oxides to the clear glass to make the colors. So cobalt makes a dark blue, gold makes a ruby red, iron makes green, and there's a lot of different recipes for those colors, but different metals are what create the different colors in glass.
When we read about this, we thought it was playing marbles. Can you make playing marbles?
So there are a few different activities today. This is our Marvelous Marble Day. So in the, I believe in the Ed Lab, they'll be demonstrating how to play marbles. And our question was, can Mark make playing the marbles you play with? And I believe, I think he would be able to, yeah.
So 5/8 is the standard marble playing size, and we actually made some last summer in the peppermint red, white, and blue pattern. We also made 1/2 inch, which is large as they can be and still be peewees, and we made 9/16. It's a very specialized setup. You do it from little sticks, little pieces of stock. You never stand up. You have the bench very tall with bearings at the glory hole and bearing at each rail. And a very specialized tool called a marble shear. It's kind of a blade that comes down on top of a little piece of stainless steel pipe that's been radiused. So you're constricting the attachment and simultaneously forming the sphere.
day. So how about a big round of applause for her getting us started? All right. Well, my name is George, and I'm going to do a little narration. If you guys have any questions, I'd love to try to answer them for you or ask Mark. We did have one question: how are marbles mass produced? Mark.
By machine.
By machine.
Martin Frederick
That's the
Christensen in 1905 patented the first sphere-forming machine. It took 3 guys, one to gather, one to shear, and one to crank the machine. It was 2 wheels with
Had a hand
concave surfaces, and they look parallel, but they're not. The one's smaller than the other because the surface velocities have to be different. And the principle is to have the thing continuously changing its axis of rotation. If it settles into the same axis, it'll make a football. So modern machines are helical. And so they're 2 great big screw-like things, and there'll be a sphere in each groove from automated shears. There, closed.
So when you buy a bag of marbles to play marbles today, that's how they're made.
Yeah, Vacor de Mexico in Guadalajara is the biggest plant in the world. 500 employees, 5 to 7 million a day.
Wow, that is crazy.
So they used to buy some of mine for gifts for some of their biggest customers. It's kind of cute. It's a small world, the marble world. Claudia del Toro.
Do they have any kind of marble convention or?
They were trying to establish a handmade department. This has been years ago. I'm not sure where they're at now.
Yeah.
Those are the really big ones in the gift store from Vacor. They can make up to, I think it's over 1.5 inches by machine, which is really huge. They get increasingly inaccurate at that size. There's no such thing as a perfect sphere. That would be, spherical to the atom, equidistant from a central point. There's a degree of sphericality.
Have you seen Josh Simpson's Mega Planet?
A lot of muscle.
A lot of muscle. Has anybody seen Josh Simpson's Mega Planet?
It's flat on the bottom.
There you go. Touche. We're talking about large, solid pieces of glass. I think that piece weighs 107 pounds. And when they made that, it's different layers of glass built up. And I watched a video where they actually have it on a solid rod, and they actually have a steering wheel on the back of it to help turn it. Yep, it'd be really hard to turn that. Like Mark, you can see he's using his left hand to turn the iron to shape the marble. Yeah, this actually has a steering wheel on the back.
Oh no, that's fine. There's little tiny tips. Yeah, so a sphere gets more massive exponentially to the 3rd power of its diameter, which is huge. So a 5-inch solid weighs 7 pounds, a 6-inch weighs 12, and a 7 is about 19.5. By the time you're just a fuzz over a foot, you're over 100 pounds.
That's why I love the programming that we do here at the museum, because you learn all of this information that you would never think about otherwise. Does anybody else have any questions for Mark?
Ooh, that one's very nice and straight.
Go ahead. What's your first question? How do you get it off the stick? That's a good question.
With a gentle tap of a butter knife.
There you go. If you wait around long enough, we're going to show you that. We have to get it off the stick. Once Mark is finished shaping the marble, we have to cool it down slowly. And in order to do that, we put it into an oven called the annealer that'll cool it down from 900 degrees to room temperature, depending on the thickness and the size. So a marble this size would probably take about 12 hours. What's your second question? How hard do you have to blow to make your sculptures, Mark?
It depends on how cold it is.
Depends on how cold it is. So when the glass is cold, Well, it's impossible because the glass is rigid. When the glass is 1,000 degrees, it's as rigid as that glass standing up over there. So you can blow as hard as you want and it's not going to inflate. Now, the hotter the glass, the softer you have to blow. So when we are inflating, you can see some of the pieces that we make up here at the Hot Glass Show. These are regular demonstrations that we usually do. And when we're inflating the glass is very hot and soft, so it takes very little air pressure. That's a great question, though.
Ooh,
Anybody else have any questions?
come on.
I feel like I'm in church on Sunday morning. Nobody wants to ask
We're ready
any
for the
questions.
first magical kiss of perfection.
The magical kiss of perfection. You've got like 30 questions. Okay, Amanda, here's the mic. This is your chance to shine. This is Amanda Sterling. She works here at the museum. You can see her tag. What's your question, Amanda?
Mark, so we've talked about Josh Simpson's largest marble. What's your largest marble that you've made?
The largest I make is a 6-inch, 12-pound reticulated giraffe. The store has a 5-inch on display right now, only a 7-pounder. I want to make a 7-inch, 19-pound, because that's how large you would have to be in scale to all the other animals to be a mature male giraffe. But I want to make a pattern called a Rothschild's giraffe. And it's sort of like a reticulated giraffe, but the channels are a little wider. It's not red like a reticulated giraffe. And it also has kind of these vague starfish figures inside of each spot. Some of them are darker than the spot, and some of them are lighter. So it would require multiple masking and multiple cutting, and it's extremely subtle. I hope to make one before I get to the jumping off place. It's so large it would require a team, so it would require one of the shops here probably.
You should have brought one with you, Mark.
Well, it would take a week or so to make the blanks, and then they'd have to be cut and brought back. Also, if we developed it, we would develop it first in a 5 and then in a 6 and finally get to the 7, so our colors would be all completely worked out.
So maybe next year.
Maybe. I don't have, the research material I have, the pelt I have for a Rothschild's is very dark and not suitable. I need to find a better pelt to start with. I'm sure there's one out there. It's a big world.
All right,
So if any of you know where I can find a skin of a really good Rothschild's giraffe, just hook me up.
Do you folks know what he's talking about when he's talking about the animal patterns in the pieces? If you looked in this case, you can see, they're literally taken from the print of an animal pelt.
All right, question number 2. Mark, what got you into glass making?
Coming close to taking this off.
I hate this. Mark, what got you into making glass?
I took classes in undergraduate school with Henry Halem. He was one of the original apostles of the studio glass movement. Studied with the great Harvey Littleton. And I decided to take classes in undergraduate school with things that I couldn't possibly do in my own basement. I started out as a painter, and then I majored in sculpture. And glass kind of satisfied my liquid desires. It was really compelling. Everything in your animal says run away, but everything in your comprehension and humanity says, ooh, this is really seductive. That was in 1974, back when nobody knew how to do anything. Fritz Dreisbach was the roving Johnny Appleseed of early glass technique and would come to the shop on a regular basis and show us something new. Okay, we're on the final approach here.
Mark, we had a question from the audience about the tool that you were using to shape.
Right, it's a graphite hoop, and so I can form a sphere slightly larger than the hole in the hoop. You can form a sphere with a hemispherical tool, but then you have to have exactly the right volume. If you're excessive, it will make a kind of a cornea at one end, and if you don't have quite enough, it will be flat, whereas it's a little bit of a range to the hoop. Slippery here. Come on, come on, come on. Ooh, that was my file, was it? My little
grab
bitty
it.
file.
I was also noticing when Mark came and set up his bench and all of his tools, we were talking about his jacks. And his jacks have a lot of mileage on them too. If you look at the blades, you can see how the tips of them are worn right in from making marbles.
So where did that, I lost my little triangular file. I think it dove off.
Yep,
I heard
right there.
it dive off. Yeah, good, thank you. And
I think I'm a little too close to the mic.
now, I'm going to fire polish the surface, get rid of any little evidence of touching it, get it just the right temperature. I'm not sure if I have a secondary that's just the right size, but we'll measure it in a minute here. It looks like a very nice one. Hallelujah. So I've got to bring the whole surface up through transition, glowing just a little bit red in order to fire polish it. I started at the bottom because I want that to be the coldest. So as I'm doing the equator here and the rest of it, the bottom is actually still cooling off.
The flat piece, that's made out of graphite also. Yep. A lot of the tools that he's using are made out of graphite. That's a graphite ring because of the heat. They actually don't scratch the surface. I've actually, the marbles that we made for the king and queen that they give away with the bases on them, I actually made those, and we have a metal ring. And you really, when you use that metal ring, it really puts a lot of scratches on the surface. So you have to do a lot of fire polishing at the end. Letting the inside get cold and heating the surface to smooth off any cracks. With the graphite tools, they don't do that as much. They work really, really well. No matter how hot you get the graphite, it's not going to stick to the glass. The metal rings, they do. When I use the metal ring, you have to add beeswax to it like a lubricant so it doesn't stick to the hot glass. Because we don't have graphite. Yeah. Most of the things that we do are, demonstrations like this. Not that we couldn't make marbles, but we just figured, we're going to make a marble, we'll get a metal ring. If we were doing it like Mark, we would definitely have the graphite rings. Yeah.
So
or sometimes a wooden block. You can actually order wooden tools that will make a nice round marble, but what happens with the wood is it burns away slowly, so your marbles are going to, get larger and larger and larger.
Okay, so I will need this reheated. You can do
I've
it.
never
Just
tried
keep it warm enough
leather
so it doesn't
on
blow
glass.
up.
If it was saturated with water and you used it really quickly,
just when I crack
maybe.
this off, just reheat.
I'm not sure. That's a
And
good,
don't get it
good
very
question.
warm. Just get this so it's a dull maroon.
So watch this.
take
You don't
it
want to
under
miss
dummy
this
heat.
part. They're getting ready to break it off.
Yeah, just like all the way in or all the way out. Brilliant.
Is everybody on the edge of their seat? Yeah. The one crazy thing about this is he's got that cinched in really, really tight. If he bumps that even a little bit on the end of the bench, it's going to fall off and roll all around the floor. It's not going to break. It'll probably bounce, and it'll put little cracks where it hits the floor. It's cold enough right now where it's rigid. It'll actually bounce off the floor, but we don't want to see that happen. Another thing, too, is when you go to put it into the oven, if the surface of it is too cold, touching it with the gloves will actually crack the surface.
Prepare for separation. The explosive bolts are armed. Oop, there we go. Yes, indeed.
So that's a little soft brick. See it wobbling?
Hey.
So it's not round yet. You can see where he cinched it down.
Don't wobble.
He still has a little
Hurry up.
mark. So he's going to close that up with the shears. Dane's going to keep that piece hot. There's still another marble on there. And Mark's going to heat this and draw it up and make it nice and round.
Oh. Throw that somewhere there's no hoses.
So he's just removing a little bit of that excess material. Once he gets enough off of there, he'll heat that up and be able to actually round it up. You can see he's got another tool. That's a closed graphite tool. The other one was open like a ring. This one's closed.
So this little wrench-like shape on the end is the diameter of a sphere that matches the contour of the tool. So this one is 2 3/8. I have these tools in my own shop every 16th of an inch, from 7/8 to 4 1/4. The ones I have here are the tools I use for workshops. They're all for the class members. Now there are some chill marks need to be ironed out from the tool. So just about the time it's as smooth as I can get it, it's almost a little too warm, so have to stop it before it goes flat.
Into the annealer. We have a soft piece of blanket in there called Fiberfrax that he lays it on so it doesn't roll all around. How about a big round of applause for Mark Matthews?
Let's make the other one. Great, thanks. Perfect.
It cools it down slowly. So right now it's at 900 degrees. We'll load it all day long. At the end of the day, we'll put it on the cycle. You know, it's all determined by thickness. So that little marble will take about 12 hours. If he had a marble that was 10 inches, you know, that would probably take over 50 hours. So it's all determined by the thickness of it. All right. So he's gonna continue, and he's gonna make another marble out of this blank, and that'll probably take us to noon, and then we're gonna actually make some bowls. So Mark's gonna make some 20-inch bowls, this afternoon. So that'll be a lot of fun too. Can the ovens ever cool off? So our studio, this glassmaking studio, there's ovens that stay on 24 hours a day, and there's ovens that we turn off at night. So the reheating furnace that he's in right now, this view that you're getting inside the furnace, that's called a glory hole, and we actually turn that off at night. It takes about an hour to heat up in the morning. It's just basically a big barrel of fire. It's got ceramic fire, or it's got fire brick that lines that oven. Now the furnace, where he's gathering the glass out of, that's 1,000 pounds of molten glass, so we never turn that off. That's been running since January of 2015. Yeah, we actually use natural gas and forced air. You can use propane, you can use electricity. We actually have natural gas piped right into the building here, so that's what we're using with forced air. I'm not sure how much gas that we use a day, but we get a really nice Christmas card every year from Corning Natural Gas. Yeah. So like Catherine said, there's a lot of things going on today. They're having marble games in the Ed Lab. The Ed Lab is on the lower floor, or the floor that we're on right now. It's all the way at the end of the shop, and if you take a left, I'm sure there's signs up showing you where the Ed Lab is. So you might want to check those out. But yeah, we're gonna make this other marble. Right now you can see that Mark's cinching the end of that down where the white is to close the pattern. And this is what's amazing to watch. Mark, he's really particular about how he does everything. He's done this for a long, long time, and he's figured out all the easy ways. They might be easy, but they take a long time. You can't really skip any steps. Are there any kids out there that play marbles? Raise your hand. You play marbles? All right. Let me see your thumbs. Do you have to have good thumbs to play those? Yeah, they look like winners. All right. Are there any other questions for Mark? Yeah. Your decoys and your hand blown. The price. Yeah. Yeah. They are machine made. Yep. Mark explained it earlier how most marbles are machine manufactured. And in the beginning, there was a 3-person team that made the marbles, and now I'm sure it's all automated. Yep. So it's like light bulbs. The first light bulbs made for Thomas Edison were hand-blown right here in Corning, New York. But when, demand, became more than these guys could make here, they came up with a machine called a ribbon machine that made all of the world's incandescent light bulbs. His marbles are available in the store to purchase. Yep. When I first started making glass, that was the first thing that they showed me how to do, because it's really hard to make a nice round marble. Paperweights, they're fairly easy. Well, depending on the pattern and the process, but marbles are really hard to make. And I would make a post, so I would make a pattern on the inside, and I'd be able to make 10 of them off of the post. But what I did is I didn't finish them like Mark did. I would have to cold work the end. So the little button at the end, I would grind and polish to make it round, which is really difficult too, very time consuming. The way he has it set up and the way he's doing it is ingenious. Yep. What's the biggest marble? Me? I probably made a softball-sized marble. It's pretty good. Yeah, I really hope Mark comes back with the plug to make the giraffe. I'd love to help him, assist him to do that. That would be great. It's really fun working in a team. To me, that's what I really enjoy. Mark, he really, in his shop, I'm sure has an assistant, but a lot of the things that you can do, you can see he really is, self-sufficient. But working in the team aspect of it, that's a really fun part of it too. Now, some of the tools that Mark uses, you can see those are a pair of pliers with long handles.
I call them the giraffe pliers.
Giraffe pliers.
$8, odd lots.
Now, do you like to use the pliers because they have a wide area to pinch that down?
Come on.
Sometimes it's hard for him to hear when he's got the torch running. It's really a...
Questions, answers?
I was wondering why you use those pliers for that area. Is it because the blades are a little wider, so it chills that area when you draw it down?
Well, I'm trying to kind of close the pattern almost like you're rumpling up a paper bag, so I don't really stretch it much. I'm just trying to close it, and pinching it like this does not deposit any material. Before I started this, I evened out the pattern so I wasn't losing any information. And this one actually has those tiny little black features are going to be open at this end, which is what I'm looking for. Come on.
The view is great on these television screens.
Yeah, this end's coming out a little better than the one on the first, but I don't know how straight it's going to be yet. Jury's still out on that.
That's another thing that maybe you don't realize is that he's trying to keep that pattern straight. So as he's cinching it down, he's not turning it. He stops turning it. If he continues to turn it, it'll give it a twist. So he's trying to keep it perfectly straight.
Yeah, you're actually subtly twisting and untwisting the entire time. And in order to keep something straight, for me, when it's hot, I actually have to go counterclockwise 60 or 70% of the time, because going clockwise, since I'm right-handed, this automatically feeds more torque into the thing. After I shoot this, maybe we'll get a close-up of this, because I actually have the little openings in the final little black marks that I really want.
It's not hollow, it's clear. So he's got a layer of color right underneath of the surface of the clear. So I don't know if you were here when he... Yeah, so in the beginning, he picked up a plug, or we call it a blank. Dane, can you grab that blank for me? Hey, thank you. So this is what he started with. So you can see on the inside, it's clear. So it's got a pattern on the surface of it. It's not really on the surface because, well, it is on this one. So does everybody know how this was made? So what he starts with is he starts with clear, and then he rolls it in white powder. And he does it, did you say 25 times, Mark?
Yeah, at least.
At least 25 coats of clear. He wants it very evenly. And then with the black, I think he said 2.5. Was that correct, Mark?
Yeah, 2.5.
2.5. Yep. So, then he cools this down. He anneals it, and it's totally black on the surface and with white underneath of it. And I think there's a slight layer of clear in between the white and the black.
So let's get like an extreme close-up here. See these final little figures, little black figures have the tiny little white mark on the inside, which was just the tiniest little opening when I started.
Yeah, so then this is kind of, I would consider it a grawl, because what he does is then he masks this off with a pattern on it, and he removes part of it with the sandblaster. And so he's removing the black so you can see the white underneath. And then this is heated back up, and that's what he started with today. We actually put this plug in an oven that's right behind Mark, and we heated it up to 1,050 degrees. He picked it back up, heated it up to the right temperature, and then he gathered a thin layer of clear over top of it, and that's what you're seeing him work with right now. He's got all the material, now he's shaping it into the marble.
The next step is to begin the valley of eventual separation.
Does anybody want to take a look at this? Here, all right. We passed it around earlier. I'm always careful when I pass things around the audience because sometimes they don't come back. You wouldn't think that, huh? So, like I said, he masks it off, and then he sandblasts the area. I don't know what anybody else would use this for, but yeah. So he removes the black. Now it makes sense, right? Yeah, puts it in the sandblaster. Maybe he puts it on a Lazy Susan and it's not painted. It's using the sandblaster to cut the black away so you see the white underneath of it. And then as you heat this back up, it's fire polishing that sanded area of it. Yeah. Well, this is pretty amazing, but to see him pick this back up and then make a marble out of it, like really precise, like close the ends of it off, and you can hear him talk about how the pattern comes to the end. Most glass blowers I know don't have the patience to do this type of work. Yes. I worked here at the museum for about 20 years, and we do the regular demonstrations. So if I can't make it in 20 minutes, I'm out riding my bike. The piece that he made here last year, I believe that he took all of that stuff home with him. Yep. Let's ask Mark. He's going to put the mic on.
Well, actually, last year, I made a Super Jetson 3, which is a very sophisticated air pattern, and it came out so well. It's currently in the store for sale, and it has a special mark between the name and the date. It says CMGA for Corning Museum of Glass Amphitheater. It's the rarest mark there is so far. Any special marks, I have my name, and then the date directly under the name. A special mark will have a designation between the name and the date so that a regular mark could never be made into a special mark. I set aside the absolute finest things for installations, maybe 3 to 5%, and they are marked with a P for premium. And they are valued at 2.9 times the regular rate. So I have collectors who only want premiums, God bless them. And my standards are so severe that they never doubt.
Mark and I also talked today before we started about he actually worked in the Steuben factory making some of his work. Mark, do you remember what year that was? Was it 2005, 2006?
Somewhere, yes, before the collapse, definitely. And I was experimenting with some of my precision air techniques, fantasizing about Steuben, selling the void. Nothing pretending to be something. I developed a technique in the early 90s where I could make open rectangles and open trapezoids and bubbles shaped like letters and numbers with accurate serifs and brackets. And it just seemed like a natural thing to do with the world's most pure crystal. So we did some tests.
So one thing with the Steuben lead crystal, it was really easy to get marks on the surface or, dirt. They would inspect all of their glass really, really harshly. Like if there was any imperfections, they would toss it away. And Mark was saying how much heavier the lead crystal was when he made the Steuben glass than the regular soda lime glass that we're using.
Yeah, with the precision air entrapment techniques I have, there's a lot of flame impingement of the glass in layers that end up being deep down in. And with the Steuben crystal, that impingement actually changed the index of refraction of the glass right there at the surface just a little bit. So you could kind of see a veil. So it wasn't as suited as I had dreamed for those techniques.
You're welcome.
So there are two versions of this that are much larger. The Vortex Labyrinths, the one's 4 inches and the one's 5. There are two of those in the store. And these figures that sort of twist down into the inside get smaller and smaller and smaller. The last group of black and whites came in clumps of 3, kind of related to one another. Just filled out the store on Thursday so you can see most of the groups. Okay, we're coming to the final approach here. Oh, good. 11:24. Oh.
When you talk about the final approach, how many more minutes do you need for that?
Well, at this point, I need to have it just the right temperature to minimize the connection. And yet, at that moment, there's got to be enough heat in the mass of the thing to block it into a sphere, because the connection will be so tiny, I'll never be able to heat it up again. I'm not really heating the groove, I'm heating the shoulder, which will be a little square after the cutting. And it will have to be blocked lickety-split.
So Mark just taught a class over at the studio of the Corning Museum of Glass. So he was over there last week with, I believe, 9 students and working on color theory and making some marbles. Are there any students here in the audience?
Hurry up.
I know there's one. I can see him.
Oh, don't slip off. I have to really watch that little stem. I'm kind of twisting it and untwisting it the whole time. I almost slipped off during that cutting. Okay. And now we're back to fire polishing.
Mark also has a video, I believe, in the gift shop that you can check, and it shows him making one of his giant giraffe marbles. So if you guys are interested in that, that's for sale in the gift shop too. We actually used to, the Hot Glass Show used to blow glass at sea. So there was 3 cruise ships that sailed all around the world with a hot glass studio on the 15th deck. And I was out there for a couple months, and I would go up to light the shop up, and I would always put Mark's video in of him making the giraffe. It was really, I've watched it, I'm not kidding you, probably 50 times, and I still enjoy it.
Yeah, the Robin Lehman video is great because you can see in 15 minutes what takes a day and a half. Woohoo! Robin's also a musicologist, so he edits each section for each major type of work I do exactly to a piece of music. So you'd swear that Richard Strauss composed his Merry Prankster tone poem just for me. I make a black and white checkerboard to Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. Okay. Ooh, interesting. It's undersized a bit. So I got to get the temperature just right so it doesn't scar on the surface I put on the brick. Feels pretty good moving here because I've got everything exactly in the right place. Okay. Prepare for separation.
So, Mark, do you use a soft brick at home when
Yep.
you? So the brick that he's using, we call it a soft brick, and he's got a little rounded notch cut out of it that he'll place that in, and soft brick works really well because it heats up, and it's not going to crack the surface of the marble when he puts it in there.
Okay.
Also, when he's using the torch to heat that up, it's
just
also
a-
heating the brick.
Just put it in the dry bucket.
And there it is.
Hey.
So again, you're going to see him remove some of that material.
So I can kind of gather up the little scarred area from the tooling.
See how he pulls that string, really stretches it out to remove most of the material, and then he cuts it off with the flame. By touching it with that flame, it just separates it.
Come on.
Again, a little bit of air. You can really see it taking the color of it right out of it.
And now, before it flies apart, we'll put it in the oven. Yeah, just a little more ironing to do here.
Into the annealer it goes. How about a big round of applause for Mark Matthews?